Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price. I am one of the two co-founders of Billy Footwear, and if this is your first time to Open Book, you are in for a treat. So first, a little history on Open Book. Open Book, where we got the name, is a double meaning. One is we as a company at Billy Footwear will talk about anything. We are an open book. You can ask us whatever, and we'll give you the best answer that we got. But secondly, I don't know if you've noticed, but given the way our shoes are configured, the zipper goes on the outside of the shoe and around the toe. So when you actually unzip it and open it up, it actually opens up like a book. And as any book, there's a story involved. So when you're stepping into your shoe, you're stepping into that open book, you're stepping into your story. And when you zip that thing shut, you're off to a new chapter. So that's one way. But another thing I love about Open Book is it gives us the opportunity to share the platform with amazing folks that we get the opportunity to collaborate with. So today, we are honored to have Temrah. Temrah is with Enhancing Movement, and I'm really excited for this conversation. So Temrah, thank you for joining Open Book today.
I am honored to be here, Billy. It's just wonderful.
Well, I know this conversation is going to be spectacular, but I want to start off with kind of an open-ended question. Tell me about Enhancing Movement. How did you get involved?
So it is my own business, and it was not on my bucket list. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And you are an inspiration to me because you have your own business. There's so many ups and downs, but basically with COVID, my regular job cut hours, and I just wasn't ready to not work as much. I love what I do. I've been a physical therapist for 35 years, and so I thought, I don't want to start again with another corporate medical place. I love the hospital that I'm working in right now. And there was only one other option, and it was just to start my own. So I do in-home physical therapy in Howard County, Maryland, and I service that area and neighboring areas. And I see children with disabilities. I see adults. I integrate into the family. I just love the experience and what I'm doing.
So physical therapist, I have a very special near and dear soft spot in my heart for physical therapists. And before I go there, I want to ask you kind of if you can go way back in time, what was the inspiration to becoming a physical therapy? I always love hearing the origin story. Like, what drew you to physical therapy?
Yeah, I love that story. So my uncle actually had Down syndrome, and that was in the 1930s. And Down syndrome at the time was not an accepted disability. In fact, the common place to put a person with Down syndrome was in an institution, and they did not go to school. And I remember my Nana and my Papa even going into a hotel, and they were told that they need to stay in a back room because they had my uncle label with them. So my Nana and Papa were from Warsaw, Poland, Prussia, and they just didn't understand that mentality. And so they kept him home, and they went to the school, and they said, "You will teach our son." And he actually lived until he was 40s. And in that time, people with Down syndrome really died around the age of 20, if not younger. So my mother was always sensitive to people with disabilities. And I remember her volunteering and teaching swimming to children with disabilities. And so when I was a senior in high school, and I knew I wanted to go to college, and you're a mechanical engineer, so I totally get your struggles. I didn't know what I wanted to do, though. So she introduced me to different experiences. And one of them was with Miss Hanno, who was a special ed teacher. And, it's like I remember it today. I went with Miss Hanno to shadow in her classroom. And one day that I was there, she said, "Oh, why don't you go with so-and-so in a wheelchair to the gym? It's her physical therapy session." And I went, and I remember the mat and the transfer onto the mat. And I said, "This is what I want to do." So in 1988, I graduated from Simmons College, physical therapy. It was an all-women's college at the time, and I have been treating ever since.
Oh my goodness! Have you worked with folks with spinal cord injury?
I did in National Rehab Hospital. So your story is so endearing to me. And again, when I got onto Open Book, I was telling Billy this before we got on that I became obsessed with all of the Open Book stories. And I learned so much about, if you don't know this, I learned so much about the goat, so much about the horn, so much about the skiing and what happened before Billy's shoes came into action. And the story that when you were in rehab and you were with 4 other people with spinal cord injuries and how those stories were so different. So I did spinal cord injury at National Rehabilitation Hospital in Washington, D.C. and you saw it. You saw the falls, you saw the gunshots, you saw the car accidents. And it was hard. It was really hard. I loved what I did. I would never change a thing, but I know what it takes to get through that kind of rehabilitation and the places that your head goes and the support that you need. And I've just loved physical therapy. It's been a journey for me.
I'm curious, at that time when you're in, they're all inpatients, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I've done both, absolutely.
Okay.
But yes,
So
I had been inpatient.
Okay. So those inpatients, at that time, how long were those stays in the hospital?
That's a great question, because I think insurance was more lenient then. We had people more than a couple of months sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're doing now. Honestly, it's been a while, but we built a relationship. I mean, it was no less than 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks sometimes.
Yeah. And that was the category I fell in. So for me, it was 1996. And I was in the hospital for 5.5 months. And at that time, the crazy thing about it, you think about in context today, like 5.5 months just seems like forever. And the wild thing was, at that time, that was an accelerated program, because the people that were coming in to kind of be my mentors, they were spending 8 months of their time in there. And it's awesome in that you can get like all this very concentrated care for such a long period of time. But it also gets to the point where, like, towards the end, you're terrified of leaving, because the world's not flat. In there, it's nice and flat and smooth, and everyone around you. So it touches on the whole mind thing. And this is where I guess the soft spot in my heart for physical therapists, because like as a physical therapist, it implies like more the mechanics, like the physical part of it, but you're also dealing with the mind that comes into the room and overcoming those thoughts. And so I'm just kind of curious, like what kind of tools do you try to give like patients, I suppose, to take on more of a like, I got this mentality?
It's a great question, and it's a hard question. So you meet your patient, where they are, and you do a lot, and you've talked about this in your open book, you do a lot with the family. Everybody has to be on the same page, and everybody is going through different ups and downs. And all you can do is be that person that meets the patient, with the spinal cord injury in the gym, to say, we can do this together. If today's you're not feeling great, then let's do what you want to do. Let's just make something happen. I promise every step that we take is going to get a step for you that's going to make you feel better and stronger. But you have to be very respectful of those feelings. And sometimes you laugh together, sometimes you cry together, sometimes you hug, sometimes you're like, damn it, get going here. You can do it. You just take so many different personalities on.
Well, I love that, because I've used this in the past as well, where the physical therapist and occupational therapists and doctors and nurses, they saw potential in me before I saw it. And they weren't necessarily my friends, but they were my coaches. And that's what coaches do. Coaches drive you, because at the end of the day, the coach isn't going to fix you. The coach is going to give you the tools that you can make the choice to try to fix yourself. And I was fortunate to snap out of some real mental funk. And I get what you're talking about when you're talking about like just making that one step or two steps or whatever. It just seems so minuscule as compared to what you used to be able to do, but you're making like 100% improvements over and over. And it's amazing how, give it time, like it just turned into miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you're working with children, it's challenging because they aren't the limitation. Sometimes their family is, and you have to know, because that's what we do. I don't think a physical therapist, I surely don't. I don't see the can't, I see the can. I see, how are we going to get around this obstacle? How are we going to get to this stage? And if you can't get a parent on board with that, and there's so many reasons why, it could be socioeconomics, it could be personal hardship, then you go every day and you do the best that you can. But that's the hardest thing is when we see potential in somebody and we just can't help them get there.
Right. Yeah. Boy. Okay. Well, let's switch gears here just a little bit, because this is, I can resonate with what you're talking about so tremendously. Oh gosh, it takes me on memory lane. You have a website. So can we talk about your website? So it's enhancingmovement.com. On your website, what are you hoping to, because we have everybody come to the website and check it out. So for those that are listening in, let me spell this out. Enhancingmovement.com. So it's enhancingmovement.com. There's a lot of information on your website. Can you talk about it?
Sure. I took the name Enhancing Movement because it kind of pivots back to our conversation. I think that's what we do with somebody is we just enhance whatever they want to do. So the name is endearing to me. The website is, I'm local. I'm in Maryland. I'm in the Howard County area. Again, if you're in Maryland, the resource page, it's just things that I've seen that have been great for people and families, adults and children with disabilities to access that. So it's a resource for local. I talked to you, Billy, about before getting on, and not really sure if I kind of met the standard of the people coming into your open book. And I guess what I want to share is that, I love what I do. I'm doing it here. I'm doing the best that I can. I live by the motto, when you can't do great things, do small things in a great way. And you live by the motto, why me, why not me? So my website is just who I am, and it's me trying to make the world a better place for people.
Well, the big thing I got out of it was it just screams community. Mm-hmm. It screams community. It screams like exchanging ideas. You're talking about going into people's homes to be able to work with them directly, like that physically hands-on touch. And also just the consoling and just through conversation and just sharing ideas. It truly is tremendous. Our brand, my gosh. It started one pair of shoes and now it's, we're 2.5 million pairs sold plus, but it started with small little conversations. Like one person tells two people tell two more people, and stuff ripples. And it's, Temrah, it's really like you on the fighting line, and many of you like you on the fighting line that are moving this whole community and inclusion movement forward. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, because Billy, in 2017, when you were injured, 2017, when you got the business off the ground, that's correct, right?
Yep. That's when we were in Nordstrom and Zappos.
So I was at it for 30 years, and I was putting those little kiddos into clown shoes because the shoes didn't fit. And I was going to those crazy shoe stores like Payless, trying to find shoes I didn't care about cutting because I only was spending $20 on them. So, your idea was it's that simple, brilliant idea that's made life so much easier for me. I keep Billy's. So I'm in the home, and I also do have a clinic job. I keep Billy's on me because once you get those braces, this is the best thing about getting a brace. Okay, you get a brace, not the best thing about getting a brace. You get a brace, you're trying it on the child or the adult, and you really can't figure out what it's doing because they're slipping all over the place. And so people give me their Billies after they're finished with them, so I can put them on my client to just say, this is what a sole feels like. This is what a shoe feels like. Okay, now let's try your brace. So thank you, because you made my job a lot easier when Billy's came out. Again, clown shoes is what you have to say. They're tripping over their feet because their shoes are too big.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember being an inpatient in the hospital, and the solutions that were provided to me, they just weren't going to work. Because they had to be oversized so significantly that I could maybe have a chance to shove my foot into it. But even in that scenario, I wouldn't know what my toes are doing. And it just didn't have the look that I was going for, because I remember I had a fashion look before I was in a chair, and I wanted to have a fashion look after I was in a chair. So, yeah, wow. So, Temrah, I can talk to you all day long, but I want to be respectful of your time. I did have one more question though. So, you've been in the clinic space, you've been in the hospital space, you now have your own practice. when you look forward, down the line, what do you see enhancing movement? What do you see for its future, and also what the future for you too?
I see doing small things in a great way. I see continuing to help people. Volunteering is a huge part of what I do. I'll continue with medical missions, and I'll continue with cerebral palsy soccer. And I just think that there's so many ways that we all can come together to make the world a better place. You doing great things, the person who doesn't have time but can smile at a stranger, the person who could work, help at a food bank. So my mission in life is to balance. That's my yin yang: balance life, balance love, balance grit, and balance the rest of my career.
Perfect. I mean, as I say, I've got such a special place in my heart for physical therapists. My wife is a physical therapist. That's not how we met, just like coincidental, but I mean, it's incredible how you're in a position where you're trying to work yourself out of a job, essentially, because you're trying to give the tools to those that you're, tending to be able to help prop themselves up, to empower. And I love that doing little things the greatest way you possibly can, because you start adding that stuff up. I mean, as I said earlier, inches turn into miles. So before I let you go, let me put the website back up for everybody else. So it's enhancingmovement.com. One thing that we didn't talk about is also on social. Social for everyone out there. The social handle is Enhancing Movement PT, with underscores in between Enhancing Movement and PT. So let me spell this out. So ENHANCING underscore MOVEMENT underscore PT for Enhancing Movement PT. Well, Temrah, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Everyone else out there, this was another episode of Open Book. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out Temrah's website and social handle, and get out there and do some little things greatly, or do some big things greatly, but do something great today.
Mm-hmm.